All right. Good evening, LinkedIn. Dave Wilson of the Ring of Fire show. Hey, tonight it's a good show. It's different. I want to introduce this book from Paul Falcone. Is 101 Tough Conversations to Have with an Employee. And I'll tell you what, where was this in the 1980s and 1990s? We'll be right back right after this. Whew. Hey, good evening, Tuvia. Long time, my friend. I know. We got to catch up, man. It's been, we haven't talked about a week and a half, but we got to catch up. Tuvia, you want to reach out to him right in Florida. He's got a lot of great jobs. Let me tell you, New Jersey and New York. Hi, Griffith. How you doing? Catch one of your lives. I'm glad you came on to the show. I appreciate it a lot. Benjamin, thank you, as always, coming on. Tonight, I usually try to prepare for the shows, right? So there's this book. I got it on Sunday. And 101 Tough Conversations to Have with Employees, right? Right there. I'm going to show it to you right here, right? It's by Paul Falcone. And he's based right out of Los Angeles. Now, I didn't know that. So he's right on LinkedIn. And I copied him on it, and he connected with me. And I was excited today that he's going to come on the show. And this is just one of many. And he has like 10. If you go on LinkedIn, I'm going to put his contact information there. You're going to see. And the reason I was preparing for it, so I'm sitting here, and I got everything, pages, and I started with pens and yellow markers. And as I was reading it, I was getting irritated, not getting against the book, but some of these conversations, I wish it would have been around in the 80s and 90s. It's pronounced like pretty. All right. Thanks for pretty. Sorry, it's been a long day, but I'm going to get it definitely for you. But when I started reading this and mark off what I was going to talk about, right? There's so many things in this book, right? That I've been in management since 1987. 1987. I've been in management all my career. I'm 55 now. I don't care. And the majority of things, I guess, that I took it seriously, this book, is because it was bringing back memories of what had happened and how I should have handled it. And I believe, like everybody on here, you learn as you grow, in management and how to react. And like everybody that's even recruiters now, because I like to gear it towards staffing, this book even covers like recruiters in a way, because they do the same job of human resources now. Recruiters are just as into human resources as human resource department. Before it was always just HR, but in staffing, that's who does it. So I was trying to think of what I was going to talk about tonight. And I was like, you know what? I am going to wing this one, because I'm just going to go off some of the contents. And when you get this, what you learn from it. And a lot of these things are like, for the first part, it's uncomfortable workplace situations. Okay. Uncomfortable workforce citations. They talk about mediating disputes among subordinates. Listen, when you have issues with your subordinates, it's hard. when I was 21 in this situation, I was young. I was right out of the military, and coming in from the military, going to a union environment, it was tough. And I didn't understand it. I was like, wow, you didn't have these problems, but I didn't confront a lot of them. A lot of these things, sometimes management needs to really, really jump in there, and it'll bite you if you don't. And you want to define yourself, especially here, establishing your leadership brand. Your employees, part of this in there is talking about your brand, really, and what you bring to the table and to the employees and what you expect from them. So some of the stuff I'm going to be talking about here, it might sound a little bit, you know what? And do I agree with all of it? Not some of it. No, because that's just my opinion on some of it. But the majority, would you even handle situations like this? And what I like about it is he gives you solutions. The solutions is based to where you can change it to your style or whatever you want. But let me tell you, it's a good starting point to bring up those uncomfortable discussions with your employees. And, there was one thing that caught my eye is in the military, we always said, hey, permission to speak. And you could vent all you wanted, right? That's where your way to do this. But here there was a part about appropriate responses to requests to speak off the record. So if an employee had come up to you and there was you never hear of an employee leaving being they feel appreciated. And that's right, Tuvia. You're 100% correct, because that employee, there's a lot of reasons now because they feel appreciated. They're not appreciated. So what he's saying are you never hear of an employee leaving because they feel appreciated. And in part of this, you learn, like I was just about ready to say, request to speak off the record. So there's a part in here where if an employee came up to you and said, hey, Tuvia, I got this problem. I've noticed Susan or Bob, is having issues with one of the, causing sexual harassment or really having a hard time with a supervisor. And I really didn't want to tell you. And can you please not say anything? But I just wanted to let you know. That's something right there. That's a trigger that you really have a fine line there, because within the book, and it really states, and I believe it, if you don't, you have to act on it. And you have to tell that employee the hard discussion. You have to tell them, like, you know what, you told me this. And if it's something bad, if it's something going on the floor and you're saying, don't tell them that I told you, you look for it, that's really just setting you up. And after reading that part about it, I kind of agree. All right, we have LinkedIn. Hi, how are you? I don't see the name, but that's okay. I'm glad you're on the show tonight. But think about that. If you have an employee that comes up to you and says something that's really damaging or say unsafe, say you've noticed somebody doing something unsafe, and you told your supervisor, you have to bring that up to HR. And you have to let that employee know, because you could stop them and say, listen, there was part of it, say, listen, you're going into a part to where if you tell me this, I'm a management, I'm a leader, and I have to bring this toward. Because if you don't, this is why it took me, is because it will bite you. It will come back to you 4 or 5 months down the road. And you're going to be like, oh, shoot. They went ahead, because if there was a complaint filed, that person would say, well, I told Dave. I told him about that situation. And let me tell you, when you're in a meeting, and that's hit right upon you with 6, 7 people in the room, that stomach, I wish I would have said something. It comes with experience, but again, hard discussions. And you really, you need to talk to your candidates and your employees about this. You have to have that hard compensation. The next one, this one was really good. Inheriting an employee with disciplinary problems, right? So imagine, your department's going really good, right? It's also very important to finding employees that fit your company culture to avoid all these issues. That, again, nailed it, Tuvia, right there. You're right. That is your company culture, because you're You're confronting the issues. You don't tolerate sexual harassment. You don't tolerate, disciplinary call-offs, all that kind of stuff. Issues with employees, supervisors, HR. If you nip this stuff in the butt, right? I like to say it like that. You can really make your company stand out, because when you start, they don't put up with that. This is some serious things. And some of these things I'm going to talk about, you might be like, well, that's just no. Let me tell you. So if you're inheriting somebody with a disciplinary action, now this could be in a union environment or not, right? This person comes in and he or she's already in that top tier of being terminated, right? Well, we'll just push it down the road. Give it to John or Bob over there, in the other department. Let them worry about it, because all you did was just kick it to the curb. You took that person, you just kicked it down there because you didn't want to deal with it. And that's the truth. I am guilty in the 80s and 90s. Wow. This is why I said it comes back to bite you, because I feel all this in this book. I feel it all. I've been there and done it. And you've gotten that person that's disciplined. Like, why didn't they do something with this person? Why did they allow this? And they don't want to terminate them or something like that, but just push them. It doesn't work, because now you just brought them into your team, and it could really backfire on you. But my point there is that in the book here, it offers a solution, as simple as this is, and it really gives you how to talk about it. Sit down with that person, have that conversation, say, listen, this is uncomfortable for me as it is with you. A lot of that is about that in communication. And you are really just, what do you want to say? I lost my mind. Thought here. We want to make this work as a team. We want to work together. You've had these problems before. How can we fix them to get there? Right? That's some of the hard conversations. I recently hired my third employee. I looked for a very specific candidate. And to that point, you're so right when I believe taking that extra steps to learn about who you're going to hire, it can go, because you can really catch it on your interviews. And some people have a hard time. There's some things they shouldn't say, but they do. But you need to confront it. Again, if you don't nip it in the butt, it's going to come back to you. The next one, this one is hard, okay? Stopping attitude problems in their tracks. Okay, I'm going to give you an example, all right? I wish I would have had this. So in the 1990s, I had some employees at the paper industry, and they just did not like each other. They were saying they made cat calls. They were complaining to me. Their body language. They were coming to me saying it's her body language. Some people would make gestures with their hands, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know. I would just put it off. Sometimes I'd be like, oh, geez, hopefully it'll be quiet. It'll be quiet. And how do you bring somebody into a meeting and say, well, your body language is telling this person they're going back and forth. And it gives you a part in the book here to how to conduct a meeting, first of all. Again, I really like how to conduct a meeting. He gives you solutions in this, which is really great. But attitude, listen, you don't really want to terminate somebody for their attitude if you don't have to, but if they're a good employee, you need to work with them, pull them in the office, right? Have that one-on-one conversation, and start it out with like, listen, can we just have a conversation here? You make me feel, I make you feel. There was a lot of that about that in the book. To get that out there, don't start it off negative. Start it off positive as a supervisor, right? And it'll really work. A friend told me you have to learn as an employer to ask the candidate the right question and pick up on the body language and attitude. And I'm telling you, Tuvia, it's in this book about that. It gives you great examples. I don't care how many years you've been in this, right? In human resources, especially. And I consider myself knowledgeable because I've been in management and I've seen all these. But when that's thrown out at you, and I can sit here and tell you, okay, Capri, how would you handle it? You have two people coming to you saying their body language, I don't like them because their body language they're doing to me. What do? If you don't start to figure out what to do, right? it's going to turn into, before you know it, they're going to get into arguments. They're going to get into a fight, something. They're going to really trigger something. And if you didn't really go out and nip it, that's kind of on you as a manager. And these are the kind of things. But again, a solution, you could read this and it's perfect. You could just add their names, and I like it. Again, if you don't agree with some of it, it's okay. This is really a good stepping stone here too. The advice before a holiday party or an off-site event. Now, you got to love that. I've been at Christmas parties, outside events. Listen, you can have that discussion. I was reading here, and it was written pretty well to where what you can say to your employees. Listen, some people say you might not want to say that, right? To basically behave in a way. But when you read it here, it's very well put. We're here to have fun. There's alcohol at the event. And I've been at some events, but people remember that. And if you don't have those conversations, at first I was thinking, why do I want to say something? Why? But these are difficult conversations, and everybody can answer them in a different way. I bet everybody here would come up with something different and say, how would I handle that? If somebody was drinking and, they were even saying, listen, you have to have spotters now. You don't want them to leave your event with your family, and somebody was drinking, or there's a lot of different things. But if you bring those conversations up before, I thought about it. And again, I was like, wow, that is a tough conversation. As simple as that is, you could stand up in front of everybody. No alcohol at company parties. They still have it, Tubi. I DJ, and I have two of them that do it, but you're only allowed 2 drinks. Hey, Daryl, Alwyn, Texas. Hope everything's going well. I still see your post. And I know this guy wouldn't take anything either, and he's a good leader also. But the other one here, inappropriate dress for women, okay, or men, doesn't matter. But if there's a dress code, right, and as an employer, you have to confront this. And I've been there. And you think it's easy. This was back in the 90s, and one time like around 2012, 13, I can remember. It is so hard to enforce and pull that employee in and do it the right way. If you're bringing in a female, you want to have another person within the room. That's just how it is. Even human resources, you don't approach this by yourself. It's hard because if something's showing, something's torn, the legs, the pants, the jeans, the way they're cut, the way everybody dresses, even the tank tops for men, all different ways. And if it goes against your policy, and if you don't enforce it, then it's on you. But this gives you some situations how you can discuss it. And it's all about just putting it out there, having that hard conversation, because as simple as that is, let me tell you, until you've been in that situation, because you don't know. And I like it because Paul gives examples here of what the person could say and to expect, and have that other part that you could also say, well, you're prepared for either way, because a person can take that seriously. Like, what do you mean? Where's it in the dress code about certain areas or certain things on the human body? But it's a hard, tough situation to talk about. So that's one of them in the book that's really good. And it'll give you some great things. Body piercing, body art, inappropriate tattoos, right? We were all in the military. I have tattoos, right? But I have them in some positions. You can cover them up. I like to cover them up. It's a hard discussion, because back years and years ago, you didn't have as many tattoos as you have now, and piercings. You didn't have as much. Now, the military, even where we were, they allow sleeves, right, to get in the military. Everybody's getting tattoos, and it makes sense. Oh, who's in there? Bob? Hey, Bob, how's it going, sir? I see you're at your new job, and I see you posting all the time. It's been a long time. But, when you're in sales, they were talking about, even in medical, if you have like a tattoo of a spider coming down and you're in the medical field, he explains to you, like, how do you approach this, saying, listen, you really can't do this. You can't wear this. How do you think the customer feels with spiders? And I'm not saying anything against tattoos. I have them all, right? I have them all up the arms and all around, right? But respectively, if you're in sales, it tells you here what you should be doing. And the clients, if you're going to clients, and again, tough discussions. And I could go on and on about that, but that's one of them. So it gives you examples of what you could say and how you say it. The next one, as simple as this sounds, bad breath. You can laugh, right? Bad breath. I've had that. And I've had, when I was in 1997 within the pharmaceutical companies, it was very diverse. So you had different cultures, foods. You had all different type of foods. And people would be coming to me, we don't want that smell of the food or the breath. I'm like, what in the heck? I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. When it comes to sales, it all depends on your client base. You're right. And at the same time, listen, like they were talking in there, like having a nose piercings and things sticking out all over, and you're going to a sales, a client does have some right, or an employer would have some right of saying, listen, hey Bob, can you do me a favor? If we can come to some kind of agreement when you go there, if you could just take them out or cover them up or, do something. It's pretty professional, but offering a solution about doing it. There she is. I know. Oh man, that's a tough one. Aromas. Stephanie, I've had that, but this book here, it kind of gives you of ways, because you got to be careful, because with the ACA, listen, they could have a medical issue, and that's in here, and you have to try to figure out a way to accommodate certain conditions. So everything that I say here, you got to look at the ACA. There could be medical reasons behind it, even body odor. Listen, it's a hard conversation, but I've had that. I have that happen, and that was embarrassing for me. But here, I wish I would have had this. It gives you just to know what the right things to say, because body odor could be linked to something medical. So my opinion to that is I really agree with what he's saying in here. It's just a hard conversation when you bring them in, and you're better if you've never done it. I didn't have anybody tell me what to do. Nobody really wanted to talk about it. It was just like, well, let it go, right? But you just can't do it anymore. Times have changed. It's not the 1980s and even earlier, but the 1990s. You can't walk in and try to pinch a product to someone that they dislike tats. You're right, and that's what I mean. Like myself, I wear sleeves to cover them up. All right, it's because I choose to. Would I go on a sales call with them showing? No, I just wouldn't. That's me. But if you have to have that conversation with an employee, because if it's in the handbook or if it's not, these are the conversations that people don't want to have. You'll avoid it until it gets to the point to where you have to do something. The next one was, all right, we said the medical reasons. A lot of the languages, different language. When I was in a pharmaceutical company, I'm going to give you an example. I had to go. There was many diverse cultures on all the lines. Everybody would speak in different languages. There were some people that were complaining about different languages because it wasn't English. Okay, you say, well, what's wrong with that? They're allowed to talk. At that pharmaceutical company, we had to go around and say on the lines while you're working, it can only be English. At first, I thought, wow, it was in the 90s. I'm like, was it real? True? We had to sit there and say English on the line. While you were off the line, breaks and lunches, you could speak all of the different languages. Now, today's world, I'm not sure that would fly. I don't know. And here again, it gives you a lot of information to try to deal with that. I mean, speaking foreign languages in the workplace, that and not knowing, lack of understanding of multicultural differences. That's what I would. Why should you hire someone then? For tattoos? And that's right. This is great that you're asking this. Seriously. Because in a way, I'm kind of glad you're doing that, Tuvia, because these are the kind of questions that you would have to say. What would you do? What, you're telling me if I have tattoos, I can't be in sales? You're telling me if I have a piercing through my nose, I can't be in sale? On the weekends I wear it, or ear things that make your ears real big. And it's what your company has within their handbook. And listen, they're a lot different now than they were back in the day. Now it's, they cover every single thing. Back then, they didn't do that. It was just, didn't talk about it. But again, how do you say it to somebody? This really gives you a great way to talk to somebody about it. One of them was inappropriate displays of sexually explicit material. Had that in the paper industry. Guys were on their lockers. They had their lockers. They had images and calendars, and it was okay. Nothing was ever said. And then when we started to having those conversations, the sexual harassment, and everything was just coming to a T, all that stuff had to go away, all of it. So the conversations you had to have with, hey, Rob, how you doing, sir? Welcome. He's always here, Rob. He's a great colleague too. Then you had to go back and have that conversation with people in a group and say, listen, stuff has to be taken down out of your locker. Then you got people saying, well, it's my locker. I can do what I want. No. Again, conversations that you would have to feel. What would you say? Again, in this book, do I agree with every single thing? Some of it I would tweak, but that's me. But that's what I believe this book is about, because it's giving you a basic and then solutions to it. And you can go from there. One of them, lack of sales production. Okay, that was one of them there. If you hire somebody and it's your company and you're to meet certain quotas, and listen, you've told them that you can do this, and if you're not performing, everybody knows in sales that normally averages like 3 months. 3 months to get going and get yourself your client base, and before you know it, you'll pick up customers. But there is some times to where sales people just aren't cutting it. And they've given chances, but there again, if you've not pulled them in, instead of just sitting there, well, she or he, they're going to be done soon. They don't sell. Seriously? You need to put something in place also that states that, hey, Rob, oh, there's Daryl. We haven't seen Daryl in a long time, but I see you posting a lot, Daryl. But think about that. Again, you set your tone as a manager. And anybody on this page, listen, if these are the kind of things, ask yourself, how would you confront? The next one, failure to adhere to safety rules. Anyone in here, I believe, safety rules are number one. If they're doing, especially with cell phones nowadays and all that, if you're not having those conversations, if you're looking over there and you see somebody on their cell phone and you're not having that conversation with them while they're on a forklift, shame on you. Shame on you. Even as not even the manager, somebody's doing something unsafe, I would always tell people, listen, go up and confront the person. Say, what are you doing? You could get hurt, or if management sees you, but at least you confronted the issue. Here, you have to really decide. You need to confront it, but is it a fireable offense? Is it a written warning, verbal? That's all about here. It's about having the conversation and how to explain what they're about to do, what they're about to do. Hello, everyone. There's Gabby. How you doing, sir? He's always on the show. So look at it. Look at that example. The next one, excessive personal telephone calls. It's telephone, right? Cell phones. You see people going to the restroom. Hey, Gabby, how you doing, sir? It's always good to see you on here. You see them using the phone a lot. Right? There's people in your workplace that are constantly using the phone in the office on their cell phones. They're not supposed to be. They're supposed to be working. When is enough enough? When is it a time to where a manager needs to say, you have to have that conversation and pull that person in? Because let me tell you, this gives you some great solutions. But from my experience, when you call somebody and you talk about that, they're always going to come back to some of them and say, well, Joe or Susie or Bobby, they're always on their phone. You don't say anything about them. See, that right there can get you. If you don't confront all of them and have that conversation, you're going to lose. You're not going to win. you're going to have just disgruntled employees saying, oh, then you're going to listen. A lot of people utilize even the computers, that you're not supposed to during work. You have your breaks, you have your lunches. Listen, if you're at a company and you're on your computer and you're looking at stuff on the internet, shopping and all that on times that you're not supposed to, if you don't believe that your company sees that, you got another thing coming. If you're on that constantly, and as a manager, if you're not having that conversation with them, say, listen, you need to be on during this, or try to work it around your schedule. Again, how are you going to confront that with an employee one-on-one in an office? It's easy to sit here and say different things. Seriously, I've been in. That's why I said my stress level is 90%. Oh, now Bill, he's in Chicago. Now I'm glad Bill came on because Bill's been in these scenarios. I guarantee it within the trade centers. And Bill, tonight we're talking about this great book, right on Paul. He's Paul Falcone, right on LinkedIn. This is 101 Tough Conversations to Have with Employees. I got it off of Amazon. It's worth it. I'm like halfway through and I'm like, but Tuvia, Gabby, there they are. They'll talk to each other for a little bit. But when you look at some of these things, like even excessive time spent on the internet, it. You walk by as a manager, right? You walk by, they're on their computers, you see them, they down screen it, right? I mean, shrink it, minimize it. Have I done it? Yes. There you go. I admit, I've been on a computer and looked up a couple things on Google while I was at work. There's nothing wrong. But when you have to confront somebody, it sounds easy. Oh yeah, definitely out right there, Bill. He's got like 10 books, and I'm going to go through all of them. And he's going to be on the show. So he said to me today, I copied on him before he said, I said, hey, I'm doing a show, and I tagged him in it. And Bill, you're going to enjoy this one because you've been through all this. I guarantee it, and myself. But how do you confront people on the internet? Bring them in on the office. This gives you a scenario 1 and then a scenario 2 that you have. Again, this seems easy, but it's not. The next one, it's working unauthorized overtime. All right. That's always a thing. Say if you're hourly and you're trying to get overtime and you're working it when it's not approved. Okay. Very difficult one, because when you pull that person in, how do you address it? It's the way you address it. Because if they're doing overtime just to get overtime, and I had that happen in the paper industry all the time. Listen, I get it. Overtime, man, that's time and a half. But at some point, the employer has to confront that issue. And when you bring them in, you could have a conversation like, it could go south easy. Oh, I had to do this. They're going to put it back on you and you say, oh, that's right. All right, okay. Nah, not so fast. You need to really documentate a lot of these things, because part of some of this in here also was about behaviors. It's continued, even on call-offs. Say we've noticed in the last 6 months, you've taken off 7 Mondays or 8 Fridays, but you're within your time off, right? Or you're going over it. Again, how do you confront that? It sounds easy. Pull that person in, and you gotta talk with them. You took the job as a manager. Oh my God, look who it is. Hey, Amy. Oh, she's gonna love this conversation. I know you're gonna love that conversation. But how do you address it? With the internet, the use of unauthorized use of company equipment and facilities. Company equipment. Let's just say you're using your laptop for things that you weren't supposed to. Taking things from the office, tools, and different things like that. You really want to be careful with that, because you have to confront it. And if you don't want to confront it, Amy, this is a great book. You got to get it. 101 Tough Conversations to Have with Employees. And Paul's right on LinkedIn, Paul Falcone, and I'll put that on top. So if you don't confront it as a manager, then you shouldn't be one. You signed up to be a HR. You signed up to be a supervisor. If you turn your head and don't have these conversations, they're going to come back at you. Some of them, listen, excessive tardiness. And I know, Amy, you better say this. I know it, or at least something. When excessive tardiness happens, and you have a crew of 20 people, let's just say a staff of 20, and there's like 3 or 4 that always call off, but nothing seems to ever get done. As a manager, if they're violating the policy, if you don't address it, your issues will just follow you, because everybody, listen, I've done it. I'm guilty sometimes. I did it years ago. I didn't know, but it will bite you, come right back at you, because they're going to say, well, you didn't say nothing to him. You didn't say nothing to her. You didn't say nothing to this person. The employees see this. They see what you avoid, what you don't want to see, and turn your back on and say, well, just hopefully it goes away. That's what happens, because you didn't confront the issue as a supervisor. One of the other ones here was, I want to go into lack of organization, neatness. Okay, just say, and we had this happen at one of the companies. This was about, oh my God, like 15 years ago. Somebody has a messy desk. Let's just assume you see that, you walk by it every day. Their desk is a mess. Everybody else is fairly neat. And people always joke about it, right? They'll say, oh, they're such a mess. But what happens when you have clients coming in? Normally, a lot of people say, make sure everything's looking good, right? You need to confront some of these issues. So if somebody's saying, we don't want this in your company, you need to confront somebody with this. These are conversations that you don't want to have. As simple as it is, a messy desk that you want to get cleaned, it irritates you when you see it every day, but you turn your back. You don't confront it. Again, this comes from, that's why I said, Amy, after reading this book, I'm only halfway through, and I was like, oh, because I've been there. And if nobody likes to talk to your employees and hold them accountable, like you said, it's just going to turn, and it's going to backfire on it. And it backfired on me numerous times. When I tried to avoid something back, it would always come back, especially in a union environment, Bill. Especially in a union environment, Bill. Man, I tell you what, when I was it was the paper industry union there, and I'll tell you what, man, you better documentate everything on everybody, because they didn't let you go. Another one, foul language. What's foul language in the workforce? What is it? Right here, Amy. He's right on LinkedIn. He's got 10 books on LinkedIn. All right. Paul Falcone, right there. Palfalcone. He connected with me. I messaged him. I didn't even know he was on LinkedIn, so I got it on Sunday. I saw it on Amazon. Very reasonable price. Very reasonable. And he's going to come on the show now, because I asked him about it, and I thought it'd be really good. And it gives you his examples and solutions. So how to deal with what the person, how you should say it, and what you could expect from what the employee is going to say. So it kind of gives you that little edge. When I reread some of these things, I was like, all right, I'm going to remember that one. But foul language, what is foul language? Saw it in the reel. Got it. Okay. What's foul language? What do you consider that? If you allow it, right? If you allow it, what happens when somebody comes up to you and says, I find that offensive? I found that word this person says all the time, cutie, honey, all these different things, right? I find it offensive. Even somebody swearing. Do you let it go? If an employee comes up to you and says, hey, I don't like this kind of language, these are other conversations. Again, you signed up for it as a supervisor. You need to confront the issue. You need to pull that person in, and you have to talk with them, and you have to feel uncomfortable. Listen, I always say, if you're not as nervous, and I think some people can adhere to this, if I'm not as nervous to bring somebody in and discuss with them, something's wrong. If you enjoy writing people up, if you enjoy that power, something's wrong with you. I'm just saying, no matter how many years you do this, listen, there's a professional way of doing it. And as you learn and as you grow as a manager, these are the kind of things that you can teach somebody in a younger generation, if you want to say, how to speak to somebody properly. How one word that you say in a meeting, one word can turn it around, and it can just go out like crazy. When you have two employees that don't get along, I understand now, one at a time. Set the boundaries, set the rules, bring them in one at a time. Then you got to bring them in on both. Then you tell them the rules. Then you got to go over everything one person at a time. It sounds easy, but let me tell you, it is not comfortable, because if you have somebody's crying, somebody's uncomfortable in the meeting, there's a lot of things that can go the wrong way by you saying one word. And this really here, I really enjoy it. It really gives me a little bit of a go of, I don't know, some different things. Email misuse, right? Emails. They know what you're emailing. So if you're emailing on your laptop, your computer, the stuff that you shouldn't be, that's on you. And if a company comes down and says, you know what, we've noticed this person sending emails that shouldn't be. It sounds stupid, right? It sounds, just tell the person. You got to bring that person in the office, and you have to figure out what to say. Being a people leader is not for the faint of the heart. I'm going to leave that right there for a minute. It's not. And I know Amy's been through this 10,000 times also. And I've told you, when I was younger and all these things like this, I didn't have anybody to really teach me and show me stuff. You didn't have that. It was HR, go to HR, that was it. But nowadays, everybody's in an HR situation, because what you say or what you do is wrong. It could be wrong. So now you got to take yourself out of that. And then when it gets to the point, you need to turn it over. Listen, if you're in those meetings with people and candidates or employees, you don't feel it's going anywhere, that's where you pass it on to HR. They're the ones that they'll figure it out for you, because it's not, listen, you're not expected to know everything. You don't have to know everything. I don't. And there's still times, listen, I've reached out to Amy a couple of times. She'll adhere to that. I was having some issues, and I knew Amy for a while, and I reached out, and I'll tell you what, she helped me through a period of time to where I never met her. We've only known each other from LinkedIn, but she assisted me on some of this. I know she's laughing, but she helped me through a dark time that I needed help, and great advice. That's what advice. Anybody can give you advice. You don't have to go with it. But if you feel it's right, you'll do that. The next thing, bullying. Listen, when somebody bully, it sounds, oh, wow. Bullying is not just in school. I am telling you. You will see it in your workers, and you'll see it in your staff inside within an office. People do bully other people. It's just like elementary school. That's all it is. It's just that they're grown up. So this here, right, talking through concerns with your trusted circle is helpful. And that's all right. I knew she'd be right on point tonight, but no, she's a great colleague, and she understands. She's been through all this for a long time, as Bill and everybody. As you grow as a leader, I think you learn the hard way sometimes, and you might not do the right decisions. Listen, and what I like about this book, it gives you a solution. You don't have to adhere to what it says here, but let me tell you, you could just fill in the gaps. And it's all that way of how you bring it out of the story when they come in, when you bring it out, how you say it, your tone, your body language. Is it important enough to tell this person about as simple as bullying? Would you like to be bullied? Do you like when your child's bullied? No, you go to the school the same way. There are some employees that just like that power, but you need to address it. You don't turn the other way, because, again, it will come back to you. And if you know what's going on and you avoid it, I have learned so much. Listen, I nip it in the butt right now. I don't really care. If somebody comes up to me and they're complaining about another employee, they're saying something really negative or something like that, that's where you need to take action. You need to say, okay, is it serious enough to where you need to intertwine? Or maybe by that person just saying to the other person, listen, that makes me feel uncomfortable. That can sometimes stop it. Sometimes employees can figure it out themselves. If somebody says something to me and I feel uncomfortable, say it. Because if you say it, you're not going to have any problems. Normally, just like in sexual harassment in a way, if somebody was I've been in all kinds of cases, males to males, females to females, males to females, all different types of relationships. I've been in them with sexual harassment. And again, that is some serious, you really need to know. I always go to human resources with this, with anything sexual harassment, because That is so serious. You really need to know what you're talking about and how to do that, how you do investigation. It sounds easy, but it's not. Let me tell you, when you listen to somebody HR do it and you sit there and you watch, they've been doing it for years. That's their job. They know how to start that meeting off. They're trained that way. So that's what they do. Miss seeing and hearing you. I have to tuck my son in. All right, thanks. We'll talk to you soon. But there again, some of the issues. One more thing, because I could go on. This is just content after content. Unwillingness to confront problems head on, and I'm going to end it with this, is grab the book, order on Amazon, right? It's real reasonable, I'm telling you. Look at it, and if you've been into business for a while, management, this is really a good one. I can't tell Paul enough how excited on the show, how this made me feel miserable. But in a way, a good way, because I'm telling you, it hits you to the core. Because if you've been in these positions and you know exactly what this feeling, and it really does give you an upper hand or what to expect, especially if you're new. If you're new and you just took over into a management position, look, talk with colleagues, like Amy said, reach out to connections on LinkedIn and see where you go from there. You'll learn a lot, and always learning, but I'm excited to have Paul on the show, and I'll let you know. I'll put the event out, and he's got, like I said, numerous books. So I'm excited to get the next one. I got to read the next half here. So on that note, everybody, again, thank you so much. I appreciate everybody being on here, and we'll talk to you soon.